Hello all of you out there, and in today's video I'm going to share with you the best small carnivores. In at number 10 is the Megalosaurus, and this creature in my opinion is quite underrated, and it definitely does fit into those small carnivores like you'd say the Carno is. The Allo kind of turns into a medium sized carnivore, so that doesn't really count on this list, and the Allo isn't going to be on this list. And then obviously creatures like the Rex are going to count as a big carnivore. That is just my kind of justifications for boundaries, but I still think this is on the upper end of smaller art carnivores, and it can fit into a lot of caves on the island, and you can see it compared to the Carno there, although it didn't have that for that long, as it did absolutely decimate the Carno, but they're pretty much the same size. And in terms of their abilities, they have a lot, and they are extremely useful in Arboration, as it is essentially always nighttime, obviously unless you're on the surface, but you can only go to the surface at nighttime, you can't go to it at the day, so these things will work 24/7 all the way around the clock. Whereas on other maps, these things don't work all the time, they will only work in the night time. In the day, they're drowsy and sleepy, and pretty much useless, but in the night they really do turn into an absolute beast with a wealth of abilities, and they can even grab small creatures in their mouth and just tear them to shreds. It is absolutely insane how powerful these creatures are and just how much damage they deal, and considering their size as well, these things are some of the best carnivores when it comes size to damage ratio, which is something which is very useful, as these things are extremely easy to transport if you don't have something like a cryopod, and they will pack a punch every time. And on Arboration you can even use them for Rockwell on the boss, which is obviously, I don't know why I said it like that, just the Rockwell boss on Arboration you can use these things for. Next up is the Manag, and this creature you may not say counts as a carnivore, but it is still a carnivore, and the reason for that is it isn't just the general theropod type thing like the Megalosaurus. There's your kind of standard definition for carnivore, but this is the carnivore as well. And obviously there aren't too many flying carnivores on the list, and technically this doesn't really count as flying, but there are 3 flight carnivores on this list, and this is one of them. In terms of the Managama's use, it is now significantly less used than it was, but it was a great option for PvP griefing, and it still is to this day for many reasons, namely obviously its freezing ability, and also the fact that its speed is absolutely insane. No other art creature can really compare to it, although it is quite difficult to control in the grand scheme of things, so that will take a little bit of a learning curve, but it definitely isn't as difficult to control as the gas bag. That creature is just out of this world difficult in my opinion in terms of how that thing controls. But there is something which you'll definitely need to take into account for this creature. It is extremely buggy, and you'll get it stuck in a lot of things. In this case here, I just got stuck in the wall, and here you can see that freezing ability being utilized, and it can freeze them for so long. It is so OP. Obviously it was more OP before it got nerfed, but it still is very OP still to this day. Next up, we have the Carno, and in my opinion, I am definitely a Carno lover, and you'll see this is ASA B-roll. Again, I'm updating my B-roll over time, and full ASA B-roll will obviously be introduced once all of the maps are here, but I am getting around to doing all of the creatures on the island. I promise I will get there at some point. But you know, at least the Carno still has some ASA B-roll for you, just if you haven't had an insight yet in terms of the graphics. Obviously this isn't higher settings, but it isn't the lowest settings either. It's kind of got it on medium, but a little bit higher in terms of, I think I've got foliage higher, and I've got lighting on high as well. But shadows on low and shadows on high will make a big difference, but you'll need a stronger graphics card, and I will be buying one of those after Christmas. Pretty much midway through January, I should have that new card in. Either way, in terms of the Carno's abilities and why it is so good, this creature is great, obviously, for its size being so small and compact. It's easy to travel around, but also with this thing on top of all of that, it deals an extremely high amount of damage, and it does have the bleed ability too. I'm somewhat disappointed with the Carno's weight, although that's something which doesn't matter too much, and its stamina is pretty good as well, which is definitely something you want on a carnivore. And again, that bleed ability is so so useful. You can just deal so much damage with this thing, and again, the fact that it's this small and it has the bleed ability, it is great. And the only thing which could really make it better is if it had obviously that better weight stat and it had the pack buff, which something like the Aloe will give you. But just the way the Carno is modelled with its tiny arms and its character, it really is a much more appealing creature to me. Although the Carno and the Aloe pretty much have the exact same taming method, and on ASA the Carno and the Aloe are some of the easiest tames, as obviously their babies are really easy to find around. In at number 7 is the Bloodstalker, and this is again a creature which you could technically count as a flyer, and if you do, then there are 4 flyers on this list, but I don't really count this as a sort of flyer or glider, really. It is a kind of just, I don't really know, it is an airborne creature of some kind, and obviously it is going to be on this list as it is a carnivore. Its taming method literally uses blood as well, so this is definitely a carnivorous creature, but I'm sure you wouldn't be countering that point anyway. And in terms of the use of the Bloodstalker, this is obviously pretty much the only way to get around on Gen 1, as flyers aren't allowed on the map, but considering flyers aren't allowed on Operation as well, the Bloodstalker is great on that map, especially considering there are so many things for it to grab onto, as it definitely does need some verticality in the map to work in its best. On Valguero here, it does actually work pretty decently, as there are a lot of tall trees around and there are loads of cliffs in the chalk cliffs area, so you still can get around pretty well in Valguero. So if you wanted a Bloodstalker on Valguero, you could, but you still, I think, are going to need a DLC map to get Bloodstalker. Wait, no, you're going to, Fjorda has Bloodstalkers, right? Does Fjorda have Bloodstalkers? I'm pretty sure it does. Fjorda does seem to have a lot of things. I'm pretty sure Fjorda has Bloodstalkers. Does Fjorda have Bloodstalkers? Comment down below if you actually know, because I'm not quite sure on that one. I haven't really played much Fjorda, but if they're not on Fjorda, then you will need a DLC map, but I'm not really sure on that one, and I think they should be on Fjorda. And also in terms of their other abilities as well, these things can grapple in creatures as well, dealing a lot of damage to the creature, and I think it heals up the Bloodstalker as well, but don't quote me on that. Now, the Shadowmane has always been known, ever since it came out, for being a really OP carnivore, and obviously again it fits into that small size bracket. The Shadowmane is one of the smallest carnivores that packs one of the biggest punches. It is just not comparable in any way. The Shadowmane is just so good at its job in every single way. It is just, yeah, it's actually a real wonder how this creature came around. But it is Gen 2, I guess, and Gen 2 is a really OP map. In terms of its abilities, like you've seen there, it can jump insanely high. It also has the hydration buff, like the Spino, which I think only it and the Spino share, and it also does have pack buffs, and it can go invisible too. In the presence of a male or a female, it's one of those, I can't remember which one it is, but it is something like that. But if you do have a boy and a girl Shadowmane, I don't know why I said it that weirdly. Either way, you have a male and a female Shadowmane together, and then that ability should work. I'm not sure which way around it goes, but it's one of those. The only real downside with this thing is obviously its awful taming method. In at number 5 is the RG, and this is obviously one of those creatures which is just so respected by the art community, and it is just really one of those essentials. And again, ASA footage is back. There is a few creatures on this list with ASA footage, and actually the next one does have ASA footage as well. But obviously in terms of the RG's use, this is by far the best creature for transporting metal. Nothing really compels, what is that word? Nothing really is comparable to this creature in terms of what level the saddle was unlocked for this creature and how good it is for that level, because it's in the late 60s. I'm pretty sure its saddle is also really cheap as well, and acts as a portable smithy, which is a really nice bonus, but no other creature at this level can do it as well as the RG. The Quetz simply has a too high of a level saddle, and its tame method is absolutely atrocious unless you have a net gun. And the Rhino Ganatha is a long process, and its saddle is unlocked near level 100. I think it's 97. Have no idea why I can't speak today. And also the fact that the RG can pick up a wealth of creatures as well, a lot more than Pteranodon, is extremely useful, especially when paired with the Anki. Those things are like bread and butter together. You really should try it at some point, and you'll have a great time with the RG and Arc, and you'll never regret taming one. Next up, we have the Bionics. And viewers of this channel who have known me for a while or have watched quite a lot of my videos will know that I really like the Bionics in so many ways. This is my go-to craving creature. Craving creature? What is a craving creature? Go-to caving creature. No idea why I can't speak today. But yes, this is the go-to caving creature for me, mainly because of its size and the fact that this is a small carnivores list. It makes sense why it is on this list, and yes, because of its size, it means it can fit into loads of caves, but it is really quick, really agile, and also really skinny, which some other smaller carnivores, like the Caro, don't really have. And I would mainly kind of put that thing maybe into the kind of larger carnivores, possibly because of how simply long that thing is, and also the fact that it can't fit through small dinosaur gates. Well, I can't really say anything, as I think the Manag is a bit bigger than the Caro, but you know, I would maybe stay away from calling that a small carnivore, and obviously the fact how wide it is means it isn't compatible for most caving runs, and obviously the berry does a very decent amount of damage to actually make it a good caving creature, and again, its speed is very useful in those tight caves, as you can quickly get out of any tight situation which you may end up in. In at number 3 is the Velonasaur, and this creature really has grown on me in the past weeks, as previously I would have put the Bionics probably in at number 1, but that it really is not a valid thing. There are so many other creatures which are better than the Bionics, and I know a few months ago, or even maybe a couple of weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, I may have not said that, but the Velonasaur is one of those creatures which has really stood out to me, as I have been replaying Extinction recently, and the fact of just how exciting this creature is to use, and how fun and enjoyable it is to use, and also how useful it is, makes this one of the best small carnivores. It's great for caves as well, as it is a similar size to the Bionics, albeit a little bit wider, so it isn't as great for caves, but still it is very much within that right size range. And compared to the Barry, you can do long distance firing, and this thing is essentially just a portable turret which no other Arc creature can do, and it is just such a cool ability to have, which I really don't get why other Arc creatures don't have, as this is one of my favorite Arc creatures to use at the moment, and I really like this ability, and I hope the Arc, or Wildcard I should say, revisits this creature at some point, as they can make this thing even better in future. I know it. In at number 2 is the Deinonychus, and this thing really does have to be high on the list. This creature is just one which really can't be missed, and if you are missing this creature, then you're doing something wrong. The Deinonychus needs to be on this list, obviously because it is a very small carnivore, and because of how easy and how great this creature is. Very easy taming method, I should have specified that, I don't know why I just said easy with no context, but very easy taming method, and very useful creature. The first ability of which you can see here. It can literally rip creatures to shreds by grappling onto them, and they don't even let go until I think they run out of stamina, which is insane, as these things' stamina drain is so low, and if it was an iguanodon, then that would be the most OP thing, as in one stance the iguanodon simply doesn't lose stamina, but I think it still does anyway when you attack. Slightly invalid point, but the iguanodon will not lose stamina 1 on all 4s. Don't know why I said 1 on all 4s. My brain is really not thinking properly today. But in terms of the Deinonychus's other abilities, this thing is great at not taking full damage, as it doesn't take full damage, but it is also superb at climbing up any kind of wall or vertical surface, not as elegantly as some other creatures, but still as efficiently overall. It may be a little bit harder to control, but you get the hang of it at some point, and really, I don't have the hang of it because I don't use this creature all too much for traveling. I mainly use it for bosses, as this thing is just so OP, as its bleed carries to bosses, which no other Arc creature has. And finally, in at number 1 is the Desmodus, and this is the last flying creature on the list. and if you did count from earlier, then you would have known that a flying creature would have been in at number 1. And the Desmodus really is just that creature which you should go to at some point, and it has the same tame method as the Stalker. This thing obviously drinks blood as well. Or would you say eats? You definitely say drinks, right? Blood is a liquid. What am I thinking of? Yes, it drinks blood, but obviously it's going to consume it, and that's the tame method. You have to have blood bags, and this thing is also a blood bag farm, which no other arc creature has the ability to do. Pretty sure it has night vision as well, or can go invisible. I didn't get that to work on extinction. It can also grapple onto walls, and I think ceilings as well, like a bat would. It has the glide ability, like you've seen there, and it can make sanguine elixir, I think, from blood bags, if I am correct there, but I'm not sure of the exact recipe. Either way, you can craft it in its inventory, and that is an absolute cheat, as it will do a third of any tame for you, which is really, really OP, and I can't wait for this thing to come into ASA. But anyway, that is the end of today's video, and I want to know down in the comments below, what is your favourite small carnivore, and what is the reason why I can't speak today? And I'll see you all later.